What was your "that's not what I expected" story? When I was 19, I worked the night shift at a 24-hour gas station with this guy named Trevor. He was probably around 25. Quiet dude who always brought those weird protein bars that smell like chalk. We'd split the shift. He'd work the register while I restocked shelves and cleaned the coffee machines. Trevor was always complaining about his upstairs neighbor. Like, every single night he'd come in ranting about how this guy would blast music at 2 a.m., stomp around in heavy boots, and slam doors so hard the whole building would shake. He'd show up to work looking exhausted, chugging energy drinks and rubbing his temples. One night he comes in with dark circles under his eyes, looking absolutely destroyed. He tells me his neighbor had been playing the same song on repeat for 4 hours straight, some heavy metal song with screaming guitars. Said he finally had enough and banged on the ceiling with a broom handle, which only made the guy stomp around even more. I felt bad for him, you know? Living in a crappy apartment is rough enough without dealing with inconsiderate neighbors. I suggested he call the landlord or maybe the cops for a noise complaint. Trevor agreed it was a good idea and said he'd definitely do something about it soon. He seemed relieved just talking about it, like he'd been bottling it up for weeks. Then Trevor just stopped showing up to work. Our manager Jim was pissed because finding someone willing to work nights isn't easy. First few days I figured he was sick or something, but after a week with no call, no text, nothing, Jim had to fire him and scramble to find a replacement. I ended up pulling double shifts for almost 3 weeks until they found someone new. The new guy, Kyle, was alright but way too chatty for night shift. Sometimes you just want quiet, you know? About a month later, I'm grabbing lunch at this sandwich place near my apartment when I see Trevor walk in. He looks different, cleaner somehow, like he'd been getting actual sleep. His hair was combed and he wasn't wearing those same wrinkled shirts he always had on at work. I wave him over and ask where the hell he's been. He gets this weird look on his face and sits down across from me. Says he was in the hospital for a while, had to take some time to figure things out. When I ask what happened, he just shrugs and says it was mental health stuff. I'm about to drop it because that's pretty personal, but then he starts talking. Says he's feeling way better now, taking medication, seeing a therapist. Good for him, right? Mental health is important and all that, but then he mentions something that makes me stop chewing my sandwich. He says the doctors helped him realize his neighbor's situation wasn't what he thought it was. I'm confused, so I ask what he means. Did the neighbor move out? Did the landlord finally do something? Trevor gets quiet for a minute, then tells me the truth. Turns out there was no upstairs neighbor. His apartment was on the top floor of the building, had been the whole time. All those months of complaining about loud music, stomping, door slamming, none of it was real. He'd been having auditory hallucinations. The sounds were so clear, so consistent, that he never questioned whether they were actually happening. He'd even bought earplugs and a white noise to try blocking out noise that wasn't there. The breaking point came when he finally decided to confront his neighbor face to face. He marched upstairs, ready for a fight, only to find himself standing on the roof of the that's hit that something's wrong. He drove himself to emergency that night. Spent 2 weeks in a psychiatric facility getting diagnosed, finding the right medic. Turns out which apparently show up in your 20s even if you've never had symptoms. Craziest part, he said once he started treat the silence in his apartment was deaf, gotten so used to the act quiet, he had to sleep fan us to have some background sound.